Welcome to Rucks, Mauls and Oval Balls, the fans' favourite rugby podcast hosted by the fans' favourite rugby podcast host. Yes, it's me, Dave, joined as ever by Rory. Rory, say hello to the listener.
Listeners, hello David. Thank you for that emphatic introduction.
Well, you know, if we can't be emphatic at episode 9 of season 2, when can we, Rory? That's what I ask.
It's a very good point.
Very good point, well made. How are you? How are things going in the life of Rory?
I'm well, thank you, David. I'm well. I spent the weekend in Wales.
Lovely.
Yeah, meeting the girlfriend's family for the first time. Very nerve-wracking, but it went very
exciting.
Well. Yeah.
Are you still allowed back? That's the main question.
No one said I can't yet.
Yet seems an important word there in that statement.
Yet is always a key point in that. There's always a chance that one day I won't be able to.
Now, Rory, were you deliberately on your best behaviour, or were you 100% authentic yourself?
That's a very loaded question. I would say I was probably more on my best behaviour than not, but that's not to say I was entirely as behaved as others might have been. I had a very nice time. I went and watched a bit of grassroots rugby.
Lovely, good work.
Yeah, a brother plays for a team called Newport High School Old Boys, NHSOB.
Okay,
who were
lovely.
playing against Blackwood, I think the team was.
Okay, very good.
In Division 1 East in Wales, which is the third division of grassroots in Wales.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is you're now trying to figure out what the grassroots system looks like in Wales now because you have to be interested in your girlfriend's family's rugby life now, and you're doing
That's very, very cynical outlook, actually, David. It's a very, very cynical outlook.
Oh, so you're suggesting
I knew wherever it may be. It just so happens that this one was in Wales and tangentially connected.
So actually you were previously aware of the divisional structure in Welsh grassroots rugby and were fondly familiar with the rivalry between HSOB versus Blackrock, whatever it was. You were familiar with that already?
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
Okay, I can only take your word for it. The
reason I bring it up, David, partly because we haven't done much grassroots gang in the last few weeks.
No, we haven't. It's very, very true, Rory.
And I thought it was worth highlighting. I also wanted to say how impressed I was with the skill level at that level of grassroots in Wales.
Well, that's good.
I thought because obviously, smaller population base, so you never know how deep the talent will go. And I was really impressed with a lot of the gameplay at that level. So a bit of an agonising loss for NHSOB. Bit of a poor second half from their point of view, but a thoroughly enjoyable game despite some very classically Welsh weather.
Well, you have to take the rough with the smooth. And, green shoots and all that. We've often spoke about Welsh rugby in the past, and perhaps there's struggles with the player pool and the playing numbers, but you're actually providing a slightly rosier, gleaming report from the pitch sides, grassroots in Wales, boots on the ground, Rory. Very, very proud of your commitment to the grassroots gang, which, yes, I have been particularly rubbish at maintaining. But there's been so much rugby on, Rory. It's hard to cover every case we can.
There's been a lot going on. But fear not, listeners. We still love the grassroots.
Now, I know you didn't ask, but we've got some silverware. That clanging.
Have we finally won those awards I thought the podcast was due?
No. This is the part of the banter section that we always tend to forget about, is where you ask about my life.
Oh, yeah, you've got stuff going on. Right, yeah. Sure.
Saladsons, the mighty green team, North Bristol Man v Fat, pitch winners, scale winners, combined league winners, silverware to represent a clean sweep at the awards night that took place last night at North Bristol RFC. And boy, the rest of the club, they were mad at the Greens for just taking everything. You could hear the cynicism across the room. Oh, it's the Greens again. Oh, I bet the Greens have won it again.
Grumpy because the food was low calorie and there was no booze.
No comment. But all
That's the problem with joining something like Man v Fat is you can't rely on the catering.
You can't rely on the catering. Well, no, there is no catering provided. But it's a bit awkward that. But it's just So, but I've also made the difficult decision to step down as captain of the green team to allow others to step up and take on that leadership role. Just because
so you can focus more time on your waistband.
Well, that partly, and I've got as announced previously. I think I said it on the podcast. I've got a little one on the way.
Yeah. You did mention that. I don't ask you enough about yourself. That's as we've established.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking, going forward, will I be able to commit to every single evening? I'm not 100% certain. So it's better that I pass the reins over to someone who may be slightly more committed than I may be in the upcoming seasons. I'll still try and go, but I can't guarantee 100% attendance. But
that's fair enough.
All being well, the Saladsons will continue to reign supreme, with me just being a willing team member rather than their illustrious leader. But that is what an extended banter section from us, Rory. There's so much going on in our lives. I don't know how people will keep up with this. But let's move on to rugby, because that's what we're here to talk about. We're going to go and cover a couple of talking points that have come up through the week. We're obviously going to talk autumn internationals, and we'll touch on some of the other things that have been going on, Prem Rugby Cup, and of course the PWR. And we'll finish off with our weekend predictions. And if we've got time, anything else we think of as we canter through the podcast? AOB. And let's see what happens. Let's start off with a couple of the talking points that have come up over the week. One of the bigger ones that I've seen, certainly in the last couple of days, is talk of World Rugby and the chiefs involved in the game moving games such as a Six Nations fixture to be played in the USA. And I've seen quite an outpouring of opinion on this, Rory. So first of all, please give me your reaction to that news when you see it.
My unbridled reaction?
I only ever ask for unbridled reactions, Rory.
Okay, it's bollocks and it's not going to happen.
Well, I agree. I think what a stupid idea. I can see it happening though. Not that I want it to. I can see something stupid like that happening.
I could potentially see an Irish home game going to the US. I can envision that. I don't like it particularly, but I could envision that happening. I don't see any of the other nations. Maybe Italy, but of the Italians in the US, how many are avid rugby fans? Who's to say? I don't see it. I mean, the RFU are going to go for it because they make all their money off Twickenham.
Yeah.
The French won't go for it because
they don't need to.
They don't need to, and to be honest, French bloody mindedness will win the day on that one.
Yeah.
I don't see any value in Wales or Scotland doing it because I don't think there's a big enough diaspora in the US for them to get a crowd.
So the only fixture that would work would be Ireland versus England, with it being the Ireland home game, potentially.
I mean, potentially Ireland, Italy. Potentially you could create enough of a buzz if you went to New York or Chicago or maybe Boston, one of those sort of classically Irish US cities. You could potentially create enough fervour to get something out of it. But I mean, we'll touch on the game at the weekend, but I'm not exactly certain that rugby's done much to sell itself to the US. And we'll touch on both games. I'm not exactly sure the US seem all that fussed by it based on their performances on the field. So. To be honest, look, the problem with it is everyone wants to crack America because obviously there's so much money there, and I get that, but it just doesn't seem to me like a viable option. I don't see the viability of it in terms of making money. In fact, I don't even think there's enough of a genuine opportunity there for rugby to keep persisting with trying to crack America. I think you've got better opportunity with trying to consolidate South America and Europe and Africa, and even potentially Asia, because there is genuine rugby interest in the likes of South Korea,
Japan,
obviously
Hong Kong,
Japan and Hong Kong, but both being the World Cup. I recently saw a clip of the Kazakhstan national team, and they got a right winger who was absolute unit, and so I'd like to see some Kazakhstani rugby. Obviously Georgia and well, it's Europe, but it's moving into Asia, it's in Urals or the Caucasus, whatever you refer to it as. So there's opportunities in different areas. Why not focus on the areas that have shown a genuine interest in the game rather than trying desperately to crack this nut
that won't crack,
completely disinterested?
Yeah, it does feel like it's just another desperate attempt to try and enter a market that is so competitive. The only thing I can compare it to is if you and I were to decide to go into making mobile phones and thinking that we'll be able to compete with Apple and Samsung, just me and you, Rory, by ourselves, it wouldn't happen. It's too competitive.
Yeah.
The competition out in America is so vast.
We lack competency or knowledge.
And we lack competency /and/or knowledge. Precisely that. I don't know what you're hinting there at the American rugby audience. I'm sure there's some knowledgeable American rugby people out there, but maybe they are swamped by.
Oh, look, there will be. I don't want. I'm not saying that we should just cut all rugby in the US and just cut it completely adrift. But you have to find a way to build it from the ground up, and I just don't think exhibition Six Nations matches, when the power of the Six Nations is in the tradition and the fierceness of the competition in the countries it's held. It's not, even the Southern Hemisphere don't particularly get up and watch the Six Nations.
No, it's a very Europe-centric competition.
So why would anyone think that the Americans are going to care about, the Calcutta Cup?
Yeah, they won't. They won't care at all. They really won't. You just wonder what other bright ideas will be sprung to try and bring a bit of buzz to this America World Cup. I really am, even though it's 6 years out. 6 years out, I have concerns about how that World Cup may not necessarily have a lasting legacy. That maybe they hope when they gave it to them.
We're both old enough to remember the reticence about the Japanese World Cup, and that would turn out to be brilliant.
True. Very true. That was.
So let's not say that it can't be good. It could well be brilliant. I just don't think this is the way to build it.
No, very true. Let's just keep a watchful eye on this space. Elsewhere, obviously, personally exciting for us, we are off to watch the England A play against New Zealand 15 this weekend. That means there was an England A squad announced, and I was mostly pleased with what I saw. It's a very good blend of kind of under-20 graduates, Premiership kind of form players, a couple of experienced heads. I've seen some reports that, obviously this isn't an official test, so the clubs don't have to release all the players they want to, which may explain why some clubs have different representation levels than maybe you're anticipating. But in general, Rory, I was happy with the squad I saw, and I am very much excited to go watch these guys go and strut their stuff at the Rec.
Yes, absolutely. We'll both be there, won't we? So very much looking forward to that. No, so this isn't a capped game, although interestingly, apparently the England A Spain match is a capture game. I don't think it's a cap. But if you represent England or Spain in that, then you are captured by that nation, which for someone, say, like
Tyrone Green,
well, Kepu Tuipulotu, Tyrone Green, maybe others might be in line, particularly for that one, if they're not already for this weekend. No, I'm really looking forward to it. Look, I like that these games are back. I think giving opportunities to the players who are striving to make that final jump and dislodge some of the more established names in the senior England squad is really exciting. I think it's really exciting to see some of the younger players who are maybe just starting to ply their trade get a shot in that kind of environment. I'm not sure who's coaching. It's not Mark Mapletoft again, is it?
Yeah, it is. It's still Mapletoft.
So I think it'll be just really good fun. I honestly think that the thing with these types of games is both sets of players have such limited time together, so you're not establishing massive structures. What you're saying to them is, this is the basics, go out and express yourselves. And when players of this caliber do that, you're just in line for a good time as a viewer. So I think we'll have a very enjoyable weekend watching rugby in Bath, which is one of the great rugby watching cities. We'll go and watch one of the watch the England-Fiji game in one of the pubs nearby, I imagine.
And if we're still standing, we'll probably try and watch the South Africa France game. That's later in the evening.
We'll certainly try, but we may be cross-eyed by that point.
Yeah, there's every chance. So if you happen to be in Bath and you happen to be going to the England A game and you spot us, and I'll be honest, we'll probably be easy to spot because we're both quite tall gentlemen. Come and say hello. We don't mind.
And
wide, yes. And also, if you are a patron to any good rugby watching pub in Bath, we will take recommendations if you have any. We'll happily come and watch rugby in your establishment. Moving on, Rory, to the Autumn Internationals that took place this weekend, really whetting the appetite because these are technically not covered by the test window, so there was only 4 games at play. Let's just start off nice and simple and easy. Probably the game of the weekend, England versus Australia, over at the Allianz Stadium, aka Twickenham. Please provide your input of your observations of that game, Rory, if you wish.
Yeah, I was happily impressed, actually, by this England performance. When you look at it in the context of Australia have had a Lions series and a rugby championship and an A game against Japan leading up into this, and England have had a 3-day training camp and a week in full training prior to this, you could have forgiven England for being really undercooked. And look, it wasn't a perfect performance, and there's bits and pieces that they want to improve on, but you can't deny that England dominated that match pretty much from start to finish. They were good for a much wider margin of victory, I think. They actually had a few more passes stuck and kicks gone to the right places. So, and this is an Australia team that we've been waxing lyrical about for some months about their resurgence, coached by Joe Smith. Obviously missing a few big names, Lenny Cattell, Will Skelton, Tom Hooper, for example. But every team goes into every tournament missing big names. That's just the reality of rugby.
Yeah,
I was really, really impressed. Not perfect performances across the board from everyone, and we'll get into some of the nitty-gritty of it. But by and large, everyone impressed to one extent or another in that match, as far as I'm concerned. So I've got no real qualms from the performance. I know there's been some interesting takes from, I would say more so from general punters online rather than the experts about the way England played, the way certain England players played. But actually, given the time they had together, and also taking into account the team selected and what's brought England success through most of this year, I thought they executed that game plan. Pretty much up to a T.
I agree.
Defensively, superb.
Yes, absolutely. Like, bar one intercept, that would have been a shutout.
Yeah, and we can talk about that in a bit more detail. But I thought the emphasis on 2-man hits. Very few Australia players got away with carrying the ball into single defender traffic. Everyone got doubled up on. Yeah, and that does 2 things. It means you're more likely to win the collision. Massive point in international rugby.
Yeah.
It also gives if you win the collision, it gives you more opportunity to steal the ball. And when you've got a team like that with the likes of Earl, Underhill, Pepper, Pollock coming on, Curry coming on, Maro Itoje, Luke Khan, Dickey to come on, all excellent fetchers of the ball. It just gives you so many opportunities to spoil attacks, which they did either by stealing it or just by slowing the ball down and slowing Australia down to a standstill at points, not letting them get that kind of momentum. I thought it was a defensive masterclass. So as a general overview, I thought in attack, all right, clunky at times, and not all of it came off. But actually, when you accept that kicking is a part of every team's strategy, and it is a real part of this England team strategy, they executed that exceptionally well. Tom Roebuck, in particular, phenomenal. And a pressure defence is part of their strategy. They executed that absolutely to a T. I don't think anyone can have any qualms about that performance. I think it was superb.
Yeah, I think one thing on that, we often talk about in the scrum half debate how good Ben Spencer is at the box kicking and game management. I
Yeah.
think what we saw there from Alex Mitchell was the side of his game that very rarely gets spoken about with him because everyone just talks about this running nine, very quick tempo. His box kicking, yes, there was one or two that were probably a bit too long, but his box kicking for those tries was absolutely pinpoint, and he executed that game plan perfectly, backed up brilliantly by Tom Roebuck, as you say.
On the money. On the money.
Which is probably exactly what they've been practicing all week, and it worked. And that's all you can ask for from an England team that's only together for a week to go and put that together on the pitch against a very good Australia side. That's all you can ask for.
Yeah, absolutely. And, on Alex Mitchell, I think the fact that he can do both, get you a man that can do both at 9, he can run, he can build tempo, he knows when to switch the tempo on. But the fact that he can also unleash pinpoint box kicks that the likes of Tom Roebuck or Tommy Freeman or Fainga'anuku even can go and chase, you've got in that an absolute linchpin of an attacking game plan. And factor in that you've got someone who can kick as well as George Ford or even Finn Smith when he came on, and even Marcus Smith in the wings as well. People will have to accept that kicking is fully part of this game plan and will continue to be. And actually that's to be sort of not just accepted, but sort of encouraged and celebrated, because watch any team at the top, South Africa kick, New Zealand kick, France kick, Ireland kick. All the top teams kick a huge amount. Actually, if you can execute your kicks well more often than not and retrieve the ball to create those transitional moments and those moments of broken play, you are fully in line to be a dangerous team.
No, I completely agree. Maintaining that slightly saintly theme, because we spoke about Alex Mitchell there, a lot of the talk I've seen post the game was around Tommy Freeman in the 13 shirt. And it's interesting because there does seem to be a splitting of the fan base. Some saying he's done a really good job. Like, I've seen him in quite a few teams of the week from some of like the online kind of channels and things that you see on Instagram and TikTok and all that sort of stuff. And then you got some pockets of fans saying that didn't really work, failed to pass the ball out to Manny Fainga'anuku, which he did. Where do you fit?
Well, look, I'm going to address that pass to Fainga'anuku because. Yeah, look, you can make the argument that he couldn't give that pass to Fainga'anuku and go. Fainga'anuku is not markedly faster than Tommy Smith, so let's not say that he'd have made much more progress up the field than Tommy Freeman did. Sorry, I actually think not passing was the right call there because they were actually isolated, the two of them, against I think 3 Australian attackers. And if he passed the ball to Fainga'anuku was down 2-on-1 against 2 Australian attackers who, if they tackled him, would have had a jump on hitting the ruck and potentially stealing the ball, because Tommy Freeman would have had to have gone the circuitous route to it. Whereas by taking the ball in himself, Fainga'anuku had a straight run at the ruck to secure it, and they recycled that ball. Yeah,
he's the support player, ready and in the right position to support and secure the ball. Yeah, I agree.
If it was a genuine 2-1 and it was green open pastures for Fainga'anuku to run into, then it would have been the wrong call. But he was marked. Like, the space that he was running into was marked. So the chances are he's getting tackled or at least slowed down. So actually having him there to recycle the ball was the better call. So I don't think that's the wrong decision from Tommy Freeman.
I agree, and it's just interesting because for some reason my Facebook was just absolutely drip feeding me posts from the Exeter Chiefs supporters fan group on Facebook. And the amount of comments I saw saying how selfish Tommy Freeman was and how he shouldn't be on, I was like, gee, like, mental. It's bizarre. It's amazing how certain fan groups are so obsessed with their own players that they don't see the bigger picture. Perhaps
they're not seeing the wood for the trees there. They're not seeing the wood for the trees because the wider picture is, in defence he was brilliant. Not just in terms of his actual tackles, which were all very good. His work rate to get into the right channels at the right time to provide the cover defence in those wide channels where Australia is super dangerous. There have been some really good clips of his work rate to cover the likes of George Ford when he's been caught on the edge. His speed to get into those positions, identify it, really important. You've also got to remember he's up against Suaalii.
That was going to be my next point. Yeah,
I'm not being funny. Since he's come into rugby union, I mean, last year Suaalii pretty much single-handedly turned that game for Australia against us. with his aerial prowess, and he got no change out of Freeman.
Yeah.
On this one, he was actually somewhat absent, and actually, between Freeman and Roebuck, for the Beirne try, Roebuck wins that ball against Suaalii.
Yes.
So I think in the context of all that, I would say all in all a really good performance from Tommy Freeman, particularly given it's his second start at 13 for England.
Yeah, and it won't be any more. It won't be double-digit starts in that shirt, including Saints. I don't think so. He hasn't done it that many times. So fair play.
So I'm more than happy, and I think look, the fact that you've got the option between him and Ollie Lawrence and Henry Slade as well as having a great season for Exeter. That is good competition in that shirt. If the 13 shirt now has genuine competition and genuine high-level operators in it, that is only a good thing for England. And it's one of the shirts that wasn't. It's one of the shirts that wasn't certain for that.
Yeah.
And there's only a few of those left actually in this England side. But the 13 shirt looks like it's got genuine high-level competition there. No, Tommy Freeman for me gets 2 thumbs up for that performance.
2 thumbs up from Rucks, Mauls, Overballs. Tommy Freeman at 13. Good stuff. We're happy. I suppose another point that's worth probably drawing out, and another example of Borthwick trying new things, which we are applauding here. The almost England bomb squad. The impact of that bench coming on the pitch at the same time. I loved it. What did you make of it?
Pom Squad. I thought it was really well engineered from Borthwick. Because what he's done 2 things there. He's given enough players who performed it over the summer the opportunity to hold on to that shirt. So the likes of Baxter and Hayes, and Underhill, Pepper, who stayed on for the full 80, whilst integrating the Lions players back into the squad and giving them a significant opportunity to impact the game. And he's identified that one of England's weaknesses their only real weakness last autumn was losing power and control in the last 20 minutes. Well, you bring Genge, Cowan-Dickey, Stewart, Curry, Pollock on, you're not losing power, as they all proved. So he's solved for both of those things. And some of those particularly someone like Ellis Genge will always come on with a point to prove when they're not starting. Cowan-Dickey, I think, is probably a similar kind of mindset. And then someone like Henry Pollock always comes on with energy and looking for an opportunity to introduce a bit of razzmatazz, which again he did. I thought it worked really well, and actually selection wise I thought pretty much 1 to 15 he got it pretty much bang on. I know that there's been quite a bit of discourse about Freddie Steward, who I know initially sort of struggled a bit under the high ball, but actually he didn't gather all of those kicks. Some of them he managed to tip backwards though, so they weren't lost. And I actually thought all round, particularly in the second half, I thought he had a really good performance.
I'm not accepting the Freddie Steward criticism. I think it's more reflective of this modern kicking game we got now, where Australia definitely kicked very deliberately to him in a way where he couldn't get his run up to gather the ball. Like, the kicks weren't long; they were deliberately quite short, meaning that their chasers had the run up. We saw with Roebuck being dominant in the air with Suaalii, which doesn't happen. Yeah. But if you get the receiving catcher stationary on the back foot, they are 9 times out of 10 going to lose their aerial battle, which is what we saw with Steward. That's not his fault. That's a tactic deployed by Australia effectively in the aerial kick chase. That's what we saw. I think his all-round game, his defence was really solid, and I've been quite critical of Freddie Steward over the last couple of years about his tackle statistics and things like that. When called upon, he done everything we needed of him. And I'd say to anyone who's criticising him, you try and catch a high ball when you've got a bunch of Australians running at you with a running start jump, and I bet you won't gather most of those balls either.
And one thing to say, the Pollock try, which obviously is getting all of the plaudits.
Lovely pickup.
It's a lovely pickup, and that comes obviously from Roebuck tapping it back. But the phase before, it comes back from Steward claiming a really good high ball in the backfield, which Mitchell then box kicks from.
Yeah.
And it was a really good claim under real pressure. I think against, might have been Potter, could have been Suaalii.
I think it was Potter.
Yeah, but it's a really good take under real pressure. And from that, we then get the opportunity to go up the pitch and score. Look, the position at 15 is really difficult at the moment with the laws as they are. Really which hard. Is why England are picking the likes of Roebuck. because that position is under serious scrutiny a lot in games at the moment with the high balls.
It's almost the modern day equivalent of a goalkeeper in football, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and no one ever talks about your goalkeeper until they let in a howler. It's I think that I would stick more or less with the same back line this week. Might be tempted to swap in Finn Smith for Ford possibly, but I'm not too worried either way on that. Again, I'm now at the point with the 10 shirt. They pick any of those three, I'm happy.
What did you make of George Ford's performance on the weekend? I know you were getting a couple of bit of pelters on the old Instagram and things like that, but
that's not unusual. But
you held your own, Roy, don't worry.
I thought, look, the place kicking was poor. That's fair enough. He obviously missed 3 out of 4 conversions.
Well, Finn Smith missed his only kick as well. So
yeah, so it's that's not brilliant. Fair enough. But I thought, all things considered, he knitted the game together reasonably well. We played quite a lot of 9, but I thought it was just a pretty good George Ford performance. Didn't set the world alight this week. Made his tackles. He made some good tackles actually.
Defensively, so I wanted to make this point.
Nearly dragged Tupou out.
Yeah,
Did you see that? I nearly dumped Tupou off the pitch.
He made a good effort at it, but I thought, considering they were doing an absolute beeline of Hunter Paisami right at him at basically every single set piece, he held his own. Like, yes, he doesn't dominate tackle. Yes,
most 10s don't.
No, well, those plays are designed because you get your crash ball 12 to get over the gain line. It happens to everyone. And I thought they've always talked about George Ford defensively not being that strong, but I've always thought the other side, because his tackle success rate is actually really high, because he generally completes tackles. It's just that because he's a generally smaller rugby player, he doesn't dominate the collision. He still completes the tackle, which...
I agree. I completely agree.
First line of defence, that's all you need, because you've got your Underhills, you've got your Guy Peppers who are going to be coming around, helping finish that off. And generally, because they've made a bit of ground, sometimes you can actually get a chance to turn the ball over as well, because sometimes you can overcommit and your supporting players aren't where you think you're going to be because they've won a bit more ground. Potentially, but I've never been one to buy into this theory that George Ford defensively is a liability, because I don't think he is.
I don't think he is. I think it's misreading it entirely.
Yeah,
I think you accept that he's not massive, and you accept that he can't make massive dominant tackles most of the time. But as long as he, at the very least, slows up the player who runs into him, and you've got players, if you've got a back row like what they picked at the weekend, that's actually all you need. So no, I thought it was fine. I mean, look, it's a 6.5, 7 out of 10 George Ford performance, but
which is a rare thing.
It's a rarity. But actually, all things being equal, I thought it was absolutely fine. I've got no issues with it whatsoever.
And he was 10 in a very good England performance, so he can't have been that bad.
Exactly. Yeah.
From an Australian perspective, would you take anything from that game? Obviously missing a few key players, which will obviously be what a lot of Australian fans will be pointing towards. But is there anything that they can take from that at all? I think.
Performance-wise, there are some big positives. I thought Fraser McWright was brilliant. Absolute terror at the breakdown. Mm-hmm. Harry Wilson at 8, I think, is brilliant every week. Lovely left-footed kick down the touchline. Potter was brilliant.
Good. Yeah.
Magical.
Very good.
I think.
I apologise, Rory. My doorbell has gone again. I don't know why this happens every week. My medals got tangled.
Sorry, David's just tangled up in his own medals. Unbelievable. Oh, he's got a massive box of pasta that's just arrived by the looks of it.
Dog food. It's not fresh pasta this week.
Not fresh pasta this week. I was speculating that it might be. Positives for Australia. So, I thought, McWright, Wilson, Potter were real standouts.
I'd add in Jeremy Williams.
Jeremy Williams. Yeah, that's a very good point. He had a good game. Although I do wonder whether they need to think about starting someone like Salakai Lotto.
For sure.
Because they just, what they lacked was real punch. They just couldn't break down the England defence, which was very good. But you have to find a way to surmount it. And actually, I think one of the real weaknesses they've got at the moment is they just don't seem to be able to bring Suoliti into the game enough. they need to tweak whatever they're doing, because they got, Hunter Paisami and obviously Lenny Katal when he comes back in are both really powerful runners. But Suoli is different gravy, and you need to find a way to, ideally you want to get him in open pastures or on a soft shoulder.
Yeah.
But at the very least, you need to use him as a strike runner to get you over the gain line.
Yeah.
Look, I think generally speaking, it was a fairly disappointing Australian performance, actually. But that was caused by England having a game plan that absolutely matched up to that. You have to say that England's tactics to nullify Australia were bang on, because they just knew how to stop the momentum.
Yeah, I agree. I think we built it up last week as being like a really attacking game, and we thought it was going to be quite a close, high-scoring one. Didn't turn out that way, and I think that was because England's defence just absolutely blunted the Australian attack. I think that's what it was, and England's game plan was spot on. Can't say much more than that.
I think to some extent we're just going to have to trust that Borthwick knows what he's doing when it comes to tactics. And
turns out
I'm now a hybrid player convert. I want to see more of it.
Well, I've seen pictures of Henry Pollock doing some kicking this week, so maybe he's got adding fly half.
He's got a chip and chase. I've seen him chip and chase.
Yes, and it's worked very well for him. So who knows what will happen? Any change? You've alluded to it already that you wouldn't change the back three, but going into the game against Fiji, would you chop and change anything at all, or would you stick with the same?
I'll tell you what I'd said Finn Smith. I think I'd bring in Marcus this week.
Okay.
To start, because I think he's quite hard done by. Although it does sound like Freddie Steward's going to miss, so there may be some rejigging at the back. And Marcus is probably the only fullback they have other than Tommy Freeman, and I think they're going to want to keep Tommy Freeman at 13 to give him some opportunity there.
Yeah. So to be fair, Marcus is the only one with 15 experience in that squad other than Stewart,
which is a shame for him, really, because he's being shunted back out there to make do. I wouldn't make huge changes otherwise. You could maybe fold in some different forwards to start if you think they can get you could maybe argue starting Pollock and seeing how he goes from the off.
He's yet to start a game for England.
Yeah, so that's potentially an option. You might want to have someone like Rafi Quirk on the bench to come on to offer an injection of pace and take advantage of where there'll likely be some more space against Fiji.
Would you stick with the bomb squad?
Yeah, by and large, I probably would, actually. I would stick with it for this week, and then I'd probably be thinking of switching it back to starting your strongest team against New Zealand. But probably this week, I would probably stick with the Pom Squad.
Wait, did you say Pom Squad?
Yeah, that's what I've seen. I like it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like that. Okay, yeah, interesting. Well, obviously, we will wait with bated breath for what that Fiji-England game looks like. But yeah, knowing our luck, Rory, the team will probably get announced like a minute before we release the podcast. But, we can always look forward to what that may look like. And maybe there will be chops and changes. Maybe there won't. We'll soon find out. Okay, the next game we're going to talk about was Ireland versus New Zealand in Chicago at Soldier Field. What did you make of this game, Rory? Obviously, there's one big talking point, but let's dodge that one talking point and talk about the game generally to start off with.
Yeah, on the whole, I was a little disappointed.
Scrappy.
Well, certainly for the first hour, both teams were pretty scrappy, and then New Zealand looked very good in the last 20 minutes or so.
Very New Zealand.
Yeah, but Ireland, I thought, looked pretty undercooked, and we should probably talk about as to why that is, because I've got some theories.
Yeah.
But New Zealand, I thought, looked pretty raggedy themselves, a lot of it. Some uncharacteristically poor handling from them.
Yeah.
Quite flappable under pressure. Some poor kicking under pressure from the likes of Roygaard and Barrett. When Ireland's kicking game I thought was actually quite good, and New Zealand didn't really seem to be able to cope with it a lot of the time. Yeah. But yeah, it was quite flat as a game. I thought, not helped by a referee who decided that this was his week.
Pierre Brousset.
Pierre Brousset. I don't like to pile in on refs, but obviously not helped by there not being a big screen and TMO issues. But the referee, the TMO, between them did everything they could to make this as bad as
it was Ian Tempest who was the TMO as well.
No, it was Rose, wasn't it?
Rose, I don't know, but whoever it was.
I can't remember.
Whoever
it was.
They like to get involved. They like to get involved, whoever it was.
Too involved. He's too quick on the whistle. You know, some of the not straights he called in the line out were pretty marginal. And, you know, Chicago is literally known as the Windy City. It's like, give the lads a break, let the game flow a little bit. Yeah. You know, it's not all down to the ref. Both teams contributed to this, and this fell pretty flat as a contest, I thought, you know, as an opportunity to sell rugby to the Americans. This did not fulfill the brief. No, I was a bit downhearted watching this one, actually.
Downhearted, wow.
Well,
to be fair, I understand, because I was looking forward to watching this game because I thought this is a clash of two really good teams. This is going to be a real nail biter, and it flattered to deceive. It wasn't fixture. It was very flat. It wasn't exciting. There wasn't a lot of great rugby on display. A lot of the star names had 6 or 7 out of 10 performances, I'd say, if that. A couple of nice moments, but as you say, that's mainly in the last 20 minutes or so. And if anything, the game, as I alluded to, there's one big talking point that the game's going to be remembered for. That is the Tadhg Beirne red card.
Well, was it though? No, well, it's not a red card, is it? Let's just get it out of the way. It's a crap decision. It's an utterly crap decision that anyone who's played the game at any level knows it's a crap decision.
If that's the precedent set, what's to stop all these players in the next round of fixtures just to run into players' shoulders and put their headbutt people's shoulders, saying, "Oh no, they weren't in a position to. They could have been lower, right?"
Look, you can maybe argue it's a penalty. It is a penalty. Fair enough. It is a penalty. You can maybe argue it's a yellow card at worst. It's in no way, shape or form a red card. And this is where you've made this point a few times. The bunker system, the 20-minute red card, the abdication of responsibility causes the problem because they've just defaulted to that now because they think, well, it's not so serious a sanction, so we can just give that and then we've covered our arses. Because then no one can say that we didn't give a red card when there was a legitimately bad shot. It's just poor. It's a poor refereeing decision that, you know, you can argue what impact it had on the game because obviously Ireland were still winning by the time they were up to 15, but you still had to play 20 minutes against New Zealand with 14 men.
All I'll say is this is probably the only example of where the 20-minute red card is a good thing because that game wasn't ruined by having Ireland down to 14 players for 76 minutes. It was only for 60 minutes. No, 20 minutes. That's the only benefit of the 20-minute red card I've seen at the moment is that games aren't being ruined by these early incorrect red card calls.
Sure, but Tadhg Beirne's day's been ruined.
Yes, Tadhg Beirne's day has been ruined. Although, you know, at least he's got in the showers early.
Well, I mean, he's only been out there for 3 minutes. Does he need a shower at that point?
He's
probably still fresh.
Yeah.
You know, Ireland have been robbed of one of the premier forwards in Northern Hemisphere rugby. You know, and they're great forwards on the bench. I'm not saying not saying that someone like Ian Henderson's not a perfectly brilliant replacement for Tadhg Beirne, but he's not Tadhg Beirne. And they've had to play with 14 men for 20 minutes against the New Zealand. You know, that will have an impact on how you can cope with the rest of the game. Well, and New Zealand pulled away in the last 20 minutes. So that's not, you know, let's not say that it's not impossible that it had a massive impact on the final result.
Yeah, potentially. And I do think it had a big part as to why certainly that first half was very flat. Wasn't helped by the fact it took about 20 minutes to make the decision because the referee had to go and watch it on the HIA review TV suitcase. Again, another glowing review for American sport and how they were able to get their stadium systems.
But have you watched NFL? It doesn't take them that long to do it in NFL.
I know, it's bizarre.
I mean, obviously they have the benefit of just going to a commercial break or whatever, but I don't understand how they've managed to make it such a contrived system to do that because they've got better systems for it that they already use in the NFL.
Felt like willing ignorance more than anything. It's just like, oh, well.
Well, did World Rugby just bring along Terry with his 1998 laptop just to run it? Like, do you know what I mean?
That's probably
it. Just baffles me.
Come on, Terry.
How incompetent
it wasn't a
this
good
kind of
look.
thing is.
Wasn't a
I
good look
mean,
at all.
it's incompetence all round. It's incompetence on behalf of the officials. It's incompetence on behalf of whoever set the system up. And I mean, to be fair to a certain extent, it's incompetence from both teams who put on a pretty average game.
I'm trying to think of any positives. From an Ireland perspective, it was nice to see Caelan Doris back after kind of the injury he got before the Lions tour.
Yeah.
He came on, had a bit of an impact. I thought he had a couple of nice carries.
I thought Doris was pretty good when he came on. I thought Stuart McCloskey
Very good game
was
from McCloskey.
was very good.
Yeah,
I thought he really put his hand up to be considered the starting 12, given that Bundyaki, as brilliant as he is 35. I thought the Ireland halfbacks were genuinely excellent. I thought Gibson Park and Crowley both had excellent games, actually. I know a couple of the kicks didn't go exactly to hand, but he was very close to putting Jimmy O'Brien away in the first half with the crossfield.
Yeah.
Tommy Osborne. And there was the knock-on off, but that was from, again, Tommy Osborne ran a really good line, but just slightly off on timing. But by and large, I thought both of those had excellent games. And I think, for my money, Crowley's moved ahead of Prendergast quite clear in that 10 shirt for Ireland, because I thought he had a better performance than Prendergast has had in that shirt that I've seen.
Yeah. Should we talk about the... No, carry on if you had more points on individuals.
I thought Ryan Baird was really good.
Yes.
In the 6th shirt.
Yeah. And he's always been really good out on the kind of in the open pasture as well. I thought he's good in the loose, and he's definitely a good threat ball in hand. I just wanted, is there anything in this link to, as we all know, Leinster haven't had the best start to see. Obviously, Ireland is strongly dictated by central contracts, so they're kind of obliged to pick all these centrally contracted players, which majority of them play for Leinster.
Yeah.
Are we seeing the downside of the central contracts, and is that part of the reason why it was not a great Ireland performance?
Well, I think the Irish Lions players, of which there are a lot, and of which a lot play for Leinster, have been probably too protected coming back from the season, because there's a balance to be struck between keeping players fresh, but there's also, players needed tuning up for games. Yeah. And I thought they looked undercooked. And given that a lot of them haven't played much. I mean, they said it was Conan's first game, Doris's first game of the season. It's not like for their first game they've played since the Lions series.
Yeah,
that strikes me as just a mistake on their part, because there's intangibles to rugby that you only get by playing the game, and part of that is match sharpness. That feel of the game, and you could see. In a number of those players, they just weren't quite feeling it.
Yeah.
Some of the line, one line up where they didn't jump for the ball, you never see Ireland making those kind of mistakes. People running just slightly the wrong lines, getting each other's way a little bit. They just looked a bit undercooked to me. And I think ultimately the protections that the IRFU put in place, in conjunction primarily with Leinster to keep these players fresh for the national team. I think on this occasion, they've proved that they've got the calculations wrong on it, because they just didn't look up to speed.
It was like a pre-season performance. That's how I can compare it to.
Yeah, it looked like the first game of pre-season for some of it. So they'll sharpen up by the end of the Autumn Nations series. I've no doubt they'll be firing all cylinders and they'll look better for it. But given how important this game was for apparently for rugby in general, but in particular for Ireland on the rematch on Soldier Field, I thought they've not got it. They've not got it right. So they'll have to go back to the drawing board on that a bit. I think the future Autumn internationals. But there is also the point of saying they were in the lead until the 62nd minute.
Yeah,
Tomato scores. For an hour of this game, they were still in front of New Zealand, which actually probably is a bit of a reflection on New Zealand's performance themselves. But Ireland weren't so far off it as to come away catastrophizing. No, they were far enough of it that you need to have a think. You need to have a real think about what went wrong. Yeah,
they could probably take a lot. They'll take the positives out of, as you say, they were on top after 60 minutes, and that's including 20 minutes being down to 14. And they did well, they would have played a part in New Zealand not looking that good. That wasn't all just New Zealand not being that good. Ireland would have put enough pressure on them to force that a little bit as well.
They were still super physical in the carry, super physical in the tackle. You could see they were still knocking New Zealand off their stride.
Yeah.
It's just they weren't then able to kind of capitalise on it.
Yeah. From a New Zealand perspective, any shining lights?
Leicester Fainga'anuku.
Mm-hmm.
We saw a few seasons ago how good he was, and he went to Toulon for a couple of years, and I think a bit of a fan favourite there actually. Coming on for Geordie Barrett, sounds like Geordie Barrett and Scott Barrett are both going to be doubts for the rest of the tour. That's to be confirmed. They're definitely missing this weekend. Good news for Scotland fans. I thought Leicester Fainga'anuku was really good off the bench. Wallace Satiti, when he was on the pitch, proving what a handful he's going to be with his pace. Cam Roygaard, mostly very good. A couple of shaky kicks in the backfield, but actually, broadly speaking, I mean, the pass he threw to Caleb Clarke that ended with the Ardi Surveyor try. The Satiti try on about 66 minutes or so. In their own 22 on a high-pressure scrum, and he throws the 25-metre pass flat to Caleb Clarke on the edge, who makes a really good break, and they then swing it to the other side for Satiti to end up going under the sticks. That kind of skill level is phenomenal. Like that pass itself, the Americans would describe it as a quarterback throwing it on a wire. Just, it didn't deviate. Perfect angle. So I thought, by and large, Cam Roygaard had a really good game, which you called he might well do.
Yeah, I did. I said it was going to be a masterclass. I wouldn't class it as a masterclass. Wouldn't go as far as that,
but
it was a good performance.
Good. Yeah, and you could see that he's a player they need to hang their hat on if they're gonna get back to the levels which they still look like they're not at.
Yeah.
But in terms of fixing that, I think you got to stick with Caleb Clarke now. You got to stick with Leicester Fainga'anuku. Tupai as well at 13. I thought really powerful.
Yeah. Thought Peter Lakai looked good at 8 as well.
Peter Lakai at 8, really good. I just think they need to set their stall out as to how they're going to play. And my gut feel is with those types of players, they need to go through the phase of being real power runners. And those are the types of guys who can do it. I would probably start Satiti over Parker.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I know, is it Sonny Carter, the 14? Leroy Carter, sorry. I know he comes with a really big reputation out of Super Rugby and has been playing really well. Partly because I don't think they got the ball to him, but partly because I think he didn't quite get involved enough. Maybe that's one to change. Maybe just go with Caleb Clarke, and depending on whether Geordie Barrett's back in the team, put Leicester Fainga'anuku on the other wing.
Yeah.
Because has played there as well. I would just go power game if I were New Zealand at this point, because I think that's the players they've got at this point in time.
It's a strength. It's a strength that they should lean into. That's kind of what was my takeaway, is that when they were doing the power runs, the power plays, they looked mighty physical and were getting territory gain line success almost every carry with the right players. So lean into it. That's what I'd do. But New Zealand coming away victorious, winning the Gallagher. Did they call it the Gallagher Cup? I don't know what it was. This made up another trophy over one fixture. But anything for an American audience. On America, so the next two games, I don't want to spend too much talking about because both fixtures kind of felt very uncompetitive. Scotland versus USA, South Africa versus Japan, two landslide victories for the obvious favourites. I started watching the Scotland-USA game and I had to turn it off because it just wasn't that entertaining watching a clearly better team run rings around a team who clearly is not at the level that you'd expect to in a first-class competitive fixture.
No, a nice warm-up for some of those Scottish players going into, they got New Zealand this weekend, which they will be gunning for because I think they smell blood. I think they can get their first win over New Zealand this weekend. And I think they've got a chance. I don't know if they will, but they've definitely got a chance. Japan, Eddie Jones is doing Eddie Jones things. He's picking players out of university. He's picking a team that he thinks he can train over the course of another 2 years to go well at the World Cup. And, doubt Eddie Jones at your peril. He doesn't always get it right, but he doesn't always get it wrong either. South Africa is just a hell of a proposition for anyone, let alone a team that is not at their very best ever. But I'd like to think that the Japanese have enough there that you can see them coming back to the levels we've seen in, say, 2019.
Yeah, well, they did something that the USA couldn't against Scotland, and at least they scored some points.
Well, I mean, this was just torturous, really, wasn't it? For I'm loath to feel bad for Americans, and I don't. No, it's just a real sign of where US rugby is at the moment, and with the best one in the world, that USA team it hasn't won many games. I think they might have beaten Tonga in the 5th, 6th playoff at the Pacific Nations Cup or something.
Yeah, not a lot. Well,
North American rugby's on its arse, and
yeah,
it's the United States are a prime example of that.
Well, they seem to be hanging their hat a lot on the 13 Dominic Bessag as being like this superstar on his way through the system because he's still playing at college. Rugby, one man does not maketh a team, so don't rely solely on that, America. And I think you just have to look at their team and you just think, when is this kind of raft of American talent going to start coming through? Because you look at most of that team and they're mostly imports still. I really thought by now we might be at a point where we're starting to see some American actual generated talent. Yes, Bessag's probably the first one of them, but...
Well, I mean, we should probably be careful about how much we class them all as imports because, it's the great melting pot. So these may just be second generation.
Well, no, so Chris Hilsenbeck for 10 was a German capped rugby player.
Yeah.
And Toby Fricker, English, Welsh, he's gone to America. He's perhaps has some American kind of citizenship, perhaps. Tommaso Boni, another Italian capped player, he's gone to the MLR and he's now able to play for America. South African second row. I'm not going to pretend to know how to pronounce that second name. Like he's a South African.
Yeah,
and I think what we're seeing is it's the fruit of the MLR probably being taken in the wrong direction, where they just packed the teams full of imports.
Well, the reality is they don't have a system, really, do they? It's can you convince anyone out of college who doesn't make it into the big leagues to come and play football rugby? It's not.
American sport is built from a system where you have drafts from colleges that produce the world-class talent that go into these sports, which are filled with American teams. And they think that's going to be the saviour for MLR, and they're going to produce lots of world-class talent through the college system in America. It doesn't get to the point that the world-class athletes don't play rugby.
It might do, but below college, you need the reason why that works in the NFL, for example, is because you've got high school football, and below that you've got they call it pee-wee football, which is like the kids. Everything in the big four American sports is a pyramid where you limit the opportunities to play the sport. It's not a participation strategy in America. It's about limiting the playing opportunities at every level to the point where you condense the talent so much that the 0.1% of players in every year make it through to the top. And that is how you funnel the absolute best talent into those top leagues.
Yeah.
And that starts from, mass participation starts as a 5 to 10-year-old in America. And then by the time you hit high school, you might already have just found out you'll never play football again because you're not good enough.
Yeah, you go to a tryout, you get told you're not good enough, and then you go and play band. That's probably a sweeping generalization of the American schooling system because, neither you or I have been there, but that's what it looks like from the outside perspective.
No, it's slightly sweeping. There's, it's obviously not completely cut and dry, but the broader structural point remains. It's about you condense the talent down as much as possible to the point where the cream has to rise to the top, and that is how they produce these amazing athletes at, say, NFL or NBA, whatever it might be. That just comes, but it starts from such a young age, and they don't have that with rugby.
No.
They don't have a grassroots rugby game going.
No.
It's going to be.
It's going to take a few generations.
They need to think differently. What they probably need to do is find a way to convince the players, the best high school players who don't go on to the best colleges, which will lead to them going to the NFL, to then play rugby at college and have a college system in, say, the second tier colleges that don't produce the NFL players. Have a rugby system that runs through them, that then captures the best of the rest, to then have the same, you've got to then convert them to rugby players, teach them the game, show them how to do it, but then try and create that in a slightly more condensed time. That's possible.
Yeah.
But you need to have that system in place, I think, and you need to have an incentive that tells players that if you already know you can't make the NFL, don't play college football in these 100,000 seat stadiums. Come play rugby. That's a tough sell.
It's a tough sell. And then it's like, oh, this sport that you love, forget about that. Come learn this new sport you probably don't know much about. And it'll make no sense to you, and you'll feel really bad at it to start with, and you've probably felt like you've been really good at the sport you're playing at for your entire life, and you're now going to feel like you're useless. It is a hard sell, a very hard sell, and this is why America is not an easy nut to crack, as everyone seems to think it is, as alluded to in the first section of the podcast. Rory, look at that, connecting the segments. Look at us, we're almost like it's almost like we're really good at this. Almost. Should we do predictions for the next round of autumn internationals now, before we touch on some of the more domestic issues? It feels like a good place to do it. I feel that's better. So let's do our predictions. Obviously, there's a few more games this weekend because it's actual official international window now. Woohoo! Kicking off, Ireland versus Japan. A good chance for Ireland to bounce back from that performance.
Yeah, I suspect they will quite handsomely. I would see this being something like a 35-point win to Ireland.
Yes, I believe so. I think we'll see another 50-point mark breached by Ireland against Japan as Eddie Jones continues his experimentations. Next game you've alluded to already, I think, where you think this next game may land. Scotland versus New Zealand.
Well, I think Scotland will smell blood, and I think they've got a chance. But sadly, this will be, I think, a gallant Scottish defeat. I think they'll battle hard, much the same way they did against South Africa last year, and look very good to get something out of the game, and then probably won't, which sadly is a bit of a tale as old as time when it comes to Scottish rugby in a lot of these fixtures. Gut feel is New Zealand will sneak this by about 5 points.
Yeah, I have a feeling Scotland might have been lulled into a false sense of security with that 85-0 win over USA, thinking everything's all rosy. USA are not New Zealand, and it will probably be a bit of more of an eye-opening. And I think New Zealand do sneak this one as well. Next game, England versus Fiji, when we're watching it with a couple of drinks in hand at a Bath establishment, and we're going to be watching the result that is going to be...
Win this by 20 points.
England by 20. Yeah, I think comfortable England win. I'd like to think it'll be a comfortable England win. Italy versus Australia.
Yeah, interesting. Tough one to call. Italy very much on the up. Australia, tough to predict at the moment. But I think they'll have some of their big guns back for this week.
Yeah, Ikitau and Hooper are definitely back.
Yeah, so I think Australia probably win this one by 10 points.
I'm going to put my neck on the line and say this is the upset Italy get. I reckon they win it by a point in like a last-minute penalty.
Okay, I'd love to see it.
It's mainly because I want it to be an Eduardo Todaro paused reason. But we'll see. Then, probably the game of week 2, or technically week 1, France versus South Africa.
Well, who do we upset this week?
Do we upset the French, or do we upset the South Africans?
I'm going to upset the South Africans because I think they'll be upset anyway. I think the French will sneak this. I think this will be a humdinger. My suspicion is, I just think the French will ride the emotion on this one because they've developed this real rivalry with South Africa. And I just think they've got enough to do it. But that being said, it's width of a fag paper fit between these two teams. There's nothing in it. But I think France will just have enough power with their big guns back. They whilst they haven't played a lot of international rugby, they've all played a lot of top 14.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think the French win this one, but less than 5 in it.
Yeah, I'm backing France as well. I think France they're definitely the second best team in international rugby, very close to South Africa when it's France in France. France away from France is a slightly different story, but I think you're right. I think France will ride the emotion. I think the rivalry's it's a nice little bubbling situation there, and I think France will harness that. Everything in French rugby at the moment is moving in the right direction, and I can see this being a moment for French rugby to really start to celebrate. And they would absolutely love the fact that they're beating South Africa. So even though South African fans will not agree with us, we are backing France to win this one by a couple of points. And then Sunday fixture, Wales, little old Wales up against Argentina.
Who am I going to upset this week? It's definitely going to be the in-laws.
Yeah, you've got to be careful now.
I'm sorry to say I don't think this is where the bounce back will happen for Wales. But not for any other reason other than I think Argentina are just really, really good.
Argentina are very, very good, yeah.
They're a really good side. And they've got a pack that can roll over you, and they've got lethal backs. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think Wales will be there yet with the new coaching team, the new selections.
Yeah.
It's going to take them some time to bed all that in.
Yeah, and Argentina are coming off. They're coming off the Rugby Championship as well. Like they're going to be pretty fresh.
Yeah, I think Argentina will win this relatively comfortably, 10 to 15 points.
Yeah. I can't see past an Argentina win personally. But you never know. We might see something from Wales that we've not seen in 5-6 years. So yeah, those are our predictions. And a nice little bonus prediction, Rory. Who wins, England A or New Zealand 15?
England A.
England A all the way.
By 18 points.
Yeah, I'm predicting a 65-50, just pure entertainment. Just going to be.
I'd love that.
Doesn't often happen at the Rec. Doesn't often happen at the Rec. Doesn't often happen at the Rec. You see games like that. But yeah, that's your Ultimate Internationals wrapped up for this week, Rory. Now, a couple more domestic issues. Firstly, let's talk Prem Rugby Cup. My first point is...
Foster won a game this weekend, so we need to talk about this. It's important.
Well, unfortunately, we can't talk that much about it because for some stupid reason, none of these games get put on TV, and there's no way of watching any of them unless you want to watch highlights from your own clubs. It's so... I do not understand how they haven't been able to sell an opportunity, considering TNT Sports are championing the Autumn Internationals as being a big thing that they're putting on TV. Why won't you double down and put more rugby on the TV in between these games? Like, they had 2 games on the Friday that would have been a lovely warm-up to the weekend.
Answer for you. So few people care about the Prem Rugby Cup. It would cost more to film it than they would get in advertising revenue.
I just want to watch rugby, Rory. I just want to watch rugby.
I know, but apparently we're in the minority that would watch this.
Apparently so, but it is a real shame because these games. It is like the future. Like most of these teams are using this as the competition to blood their younger players.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get excited when you can't watch them.
Well, look, and if you can't sell Newcastle Red Bulls 8, let the Tigers 10, what can you sell? I mean, honestly, what Prem Rugby do better?
Yeah, unfortunately, that game probably isn't the best example for let's get something on TV when it's an 8-10.
No, the Red Bulls come in full bore and narrowly losing out to Leicester Tigers D team.
Yeah, the Leicester Cubs.
Not great. Bath brought a team that wouldn't actually look that out of place in Prem.
No.
Just the strength of their squad is such. Smashing Bristol 49-19.
Yeah, again, the Bristol Cubs.
The Bristol Cubs. But to be fair to Bristol, I wouldn't have risked any more first-team players either.
No, I don't think they can afford to because I think a lot of those players are not far away from getting their Prem debuts.
No. The Northampton Saints, seemingly quite comfortable winners against Quins in the end. Both very mixed bag teams. Some recognisable names, but not loads. But Saints coming away with the win.
Yeah.
And then the mighty Gloucester.
Finally.
The mighty Gloucester winning away at a humdinger. 28-29 away at Sale.
Considering, I'm surprised you were able to put a team out with players that generally haven't participated that much this season for your first team. So you had a couple.
Well, a couple of players on the comeback trail from injury. So Ben Redshaw started at 15, had some nice touches from what I've seen on the highlights.
Yeah.
Josh Hathaway making his first appearance.
Yeah.
Cockgreave starting again on the other wing. So a good back three. The two Knight brothers in the centres, nice to see. Their cousin Kira Knight getting the call up to England A. Don't let it be said that it's incestuous in Gloucestershire. And then, George Barton getting a run out of 10. Looked pretty good from what I could see. Will Trenholm at 8 scored a nice, powerful try. But, by and large, two pretty mixed sides from those two. Just nice to see Gloucester get a win. And just also nice to see that they've not risked a soul.
Yeah, that is nice. I think, and from the Sale perspective, I know they lost. I know this competition doesn't really mean much, but the second row pairing of Patrick Hogg and Tom Burrow, those are two very high potential second rows. Particularly Patrick Hogg, who has done the odd thing of moving from the Newcastle Red Bulls to the Sale Sharks Senior Academy, making the move that most players probably ain't going to be making in the future.
No.
I think
they're finally getting on that take that hype, isn't he?
Yeah. So unfortunately, can't talk too much about these fixtures, but we're just very glad for Rory that Gloucester were able to talk about a victory. So we've given you a little bit of airtime to talk about that. But again, we spoke about it last year. We spoke about it a little bit at the start of the season. It's really hard to get excited about the Premier Rugby Cup, isn't it?
I just don't care. I don't care about it. I'm sorry, David. It's just so unimportant.
Oh, it's a shame. There's so many things that could be done to make it exciting. I feel like even Prem Rugby don't care, and they probably don't. I wish they did. Now onto a competition. Let's talk PWR briefly, Rory. That's at least we care a bit more about that, I'd like to think.
We do. Gloucester Hartbury women getting their second win of the season away at Exeter. Good performance. 47-31.
Yeah.
2 from 2 from Gloucester Hartbury. No other teams unbeaten.
Strong
start. With the turnover in coaching and playing, I think they can be really pleased with that. Bristol Bears hammering Leicester Tigers 74-0 away. Not a good start to the season.
Arguably, Gloucester aren't the only unbeaten team. It's just Bristol have only played one game.
Yeah, you could argue that, but I don't see why you would, David, and contradict me at this late stage of the podcast. A very good point, well made.
Yeah.
But no, Bristol looking, their first out in the season, so looking like they're starting well. So expect a real humdinger with those two sides.
74-0 at Welford Road's pretty, I'd say, is a bit better than starting well. Real humdingery, we remain to see how good Leicester Tigers women will be throughout the season. So very true.
But nonetheless, huge win. Mm-hmm. Loughborough Lightning winning at home against Sale Sharks. Holly Aitchison's move to the northwest so far not proving fruitful. And I know they've poured quite a bit of money into that squad this season, Sale Sharks, and struggling to get started at the moment. Yeah. And then finally, Saracens women 47, Harlequins women 10.
It wasn't the score. I thought it was going to be a bit closer.
Quite the drubbing.
And I wonder if this is potentially showing the gap in quality maybe between the top sides in the PWR and the rest. Because, you consider Gloucester Hartbury delivered one to Saracens. Saracens have delivered one to Harlequins, and I'd say Harlequins are one of the better teams in the PWR.
You would have thought Quins would have been among those top sides, so an interesting one. Maybe just a couple of teams experiencing a bit of fluctuation post-World Cup.
Yeah, but there could be. I'll be very surprised if there wasn't a degree of a little bit of a hangover, and maybe some players still with a couple of hangovers, maybe, rightfully so. But all in all, it's a very strong start to the competition. As you say, Gloucester Hartbury on top. Let's see a couple more rounds in. Let's see how the table shapes up. I'm intrigued. I wonder whether Bristol Bears may be moving into the territory of being competitors for the top of that table again, because they've got some exciting young players. Obviously, you've got Abby Ward, who's becoming a little bit of a real driving force for Bristol and a kind of face on and off the pitch for them and a leader. So it'll be interesting to see, because again, another team that I know money is being poured into to try and improve and kind of bring them up to that level. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season moves forward, Rory. And that brings us into AOB, Rory. Any other business you wish to address?
If anyone does have any recommendations for the best pubs to watch the England game in Bath, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, and if you play for England A or New Zealand 15 and you're planning to watch the rugby yourselves in Bath, let us know. Like, I'm sure
there is a podcast guest in the England squad.
Yeah, if you want to get on the podcast, like Archie McParland, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, we'll happily come and have a couple of drinks with you. I know that's not going to happen, Rory, but how often do you get the opportunity?
Whoa. We don't know that's not going to happen just yet.
We don't know that's not going to happen just yet. But yes, we're very much looking forward to taking Ruxmoor.
Buy all the beers.
Not for the whole squad, Rory.
Just when it turns up.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, if you're interested in seeing Ruxmalls and Overballs on the road in Bath, come find us, and we'll show you how much we know about rugby in person, and just have set your expectations.
Without our scripts.
Yeah, without our scripts, and probably, let's face it,
best.
Yeah, maybe the filters will be gone. Maybe you'll get a completely different version of us. But yeah, very much looking forward to it, Rory. We'll report back next week for the listener. If you don't happen to be in Bath that weekend and you want to know how that weekend's gone for us, we'll let you know. Look forward to next week's banter section. I'm sure it'll be great fun. But yeah, I think that's a lovely, lovely note to finish the pod on, Rory. Which means, Rory, it's time for your final thought. And what is your final thought this week?
I'm up on tour.
And with that, we bring episode 9 to a close. We've been Ruxmalls and Overballs. If you've enjoyed listening, remember to like, follow, subscribe, all those other things you can do. And we'll be back next week with more rugby fun. Ta-ra!
Ta-ra!